Welcome to the Divorce Remix Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to Divorce Remix the podcast. I am very excited about my guest today, and we're going to be talking about something that I think we kind of forget about when we're going through a divorce, but then it hits us like a Mack truck after our divorce. You guys have always heard me say that divorce is a death, but it's not a death sentence. And so that is the whole point of this podcast, is to bring you guys experts that'll give you tips and tools and resources to help you create a life you love after divorce. So I'm April Nowlin. I am a certified divorce recovery and dating coach. And so I am the host of Divorce Remix Podcast. So today I want to introduce Reshell Smith. She is a certified financial planner, and she's been in this business, y'all, for like 20 something, 25 something plus years. So let me tell y'all, she knows what she's talking about. Okay. And so Reshell owns a company. She's a speaker. She does a lot of amazing things. And so welcome to the podcast, Reshell.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me.
Thanks for saying yes. I literally could not do this podcast without the guest. So
Yes. It was a pleasure to say yes.
So, Reshell, I always like to ask, like, how did you get into this business? Because I'm going to be honest with you, when I think about numbers and I think about finance, I'm like, wonk, 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 wonk. Like, it just does not sound fun. So, how did you get started in this business?
So I've always been a numbers girl, actually. And I went to college. My major was accounting, but I quickly decided that I didn't want to be a CPA. I didn't want to be an auditor. I just didn't see a pathway for me in accounting. And so I got into the banking industry. And I had a few jobs in banking. I met a friend in this out shopping, of course, and she introduced me to a firm that was hiring at the time, and it was a brokerage firm. So I started at that brokerage firm from the bottom, no licenses, just giving quotes, resetting passwords. And so I worked my way up through the channels of that company, and I knew that this was the industry for me. So I've stayed in this industry for, as you said, 26 years now.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
I love to hear those stories about literally how people just kind of fell into something, right? You're like out spending money.
Yes, exactly. And she and I still do that to this day. We're shopping buddies.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So share with us the group of people that you work with. So we were introduced by a mutual friend. Shout out to Shahara. Thank you so much.
Shahara.
Loved her for years. And so when she told me, hey, you need to connect with this person because she also supports a group that I support. So how did you end up supporting that group of people?
So the firm that I was at, I was a portfolio consultant for them, and then I was one of the original members on their financial planning team. And as you know, in our industry is predominantly male, predominantly Caucasian male. And those were actually the types of clients that I was talking to. Even when I was on that financial planning team, I worked with couples, but what I found out is that I was working with a lot of men. Nothing wrong with men, but they were married men. So the wives were there. It's just that I never spoke to them a lot, right? So when it was time to do those big, huge, comprehensive financial plans, I would definitely have couples at the table, not saying that women didn't show up because they did, but it felt like to me that the men really showed up. And, with the divorce rate where it is, I saw where couples would get a divorce and I just end up talking to the husband. So it's like, what happened to the wife? And, the wife sometimes didn't understand the assets that they had. They didn't understand what their portfolio looked like. And I am also a divorcee. And my divorce, I didn't divorce in the way that I should have divorced, right? So there's a way to divorce. It's not that it needs to be bad or good. There's just a proper way to divorce. And so those things got me into this lane of working with divorcees. And by the women that I attract, divorcees, C-suite executive, high earning income women, those are the people that are attracted to me.
Man, thanks for sharing that. In a very similar vein, when I went through my third divorce, one of the things that I was looking for was help with recovering after that. Because I knew that the first two times it was like, okay, something didn't work.
Yeah.
I didn't do something right. Something didn't work. And so when I was looking for help, very similar to you, I would find that in the divorce space, it was women, but it was no one that looked like me.
Right.
There was no Black or brown women. A lot of it, there was not faith-based women, which is what I work with quite a bit. There just wasn't the help that looked like me. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to be the help that I wish I had. And so, like you, there were things that after my divorces, I was like, man, I wish I had known that. I wish there was someone there to tell me, like, this is how to do this, or this is how to prepare, or this is even how to bounce back. And so kudos to you for finding that niche, for finding that gap and saying, you know what, I'm going to fill that space.
Yes.
So I want to get into some of the things because I know my listeners are going to be like, it's great that she's in finances. What I need to do.
Right. Right.
So I want to start with maybe talking to the person who is contemplating divorce. Many times when a couple divorces, they didn't wake up that morning and decide to divorce. This is something that has gone on for months and sometimes even years trying to make this decision. And let me say this, y'all, I'm not saying that, you go through the hide your money and all that, right? But like Reshell said, there is a right way to do it. So what are some of the things that people can be thinking about or doing, like even when they're thinking about a divorce?
Sure. So, depending on what side you're on, a lot of it boils down at the end to money. So, breadwinner, not breadwinner, who has assets, who doesn't have assets, and of course the children. So, I always tell people, if you're thinking about it, think about first of all what you want the other side to look like. So once this whole process is over, what do I want my life to look like? Like, what do I want to come out of this with? Joint custody of the children? Do I want some sort of spousal support? Do I want this home? Like, think of what you want that outcome to look like. So that's number one. Number two, as you're going through the process, most divorces, people, it's mutual, so everybody knows, this is what's going to happen, but sometimes it's not mutual. So what you need to do is to make sure that you round up what I call your village people. So people that you are going to have to support you. You don't have to tell them that you're getting ready to get a divorce. You don't have to put that out there, but just know, maybe it's going to be my mom. My sister's going to help with the kids, getting them to school and picking them up. I'm going to need to reach out to my church, my congregation for some, financial support or whatever the case may be. Make sure that you have a list of your village. And then the third thing is, I always do this before and after a divorce, is to have a hypothetical budget. Or a hypothetical, where's your income going to come from? What are your hypothetical expenses? So those are the top three things that I'd be thinking about even before the process happens.
That is so good. When you said the village, I call it my tribe of crazy.
I like that.
Yeah, my tribe of crazy. But those are really good things because once again, when you are in the emotional turmoil of a divorce, a lot of times it's hard to think about those things unless someone like you is saying, okay, hey, have you thought about what's your future? And that's something that's tough too, because people are like, I can't see past this divorce.
Right.
But like if we do have children or even a business, things like that, a home or different assets, we have to at least give some thought to like, what does this future look like? I share with people that so all three of my divorces were different. The first one we mutually agreed. Like we were just like, this ain't working. We're gonna go to the courthouse. We laughed and joked through our divorce. Have a good day. Never saw each other again. Like literally, we were the judge was like, "Are you sure you want to get divorced?" We're like, "Yes, yes."
Yeah.
The second time around, so that time financially, I kind of knew, where I was at. Second time around, it was my daughter's dad, and she was 4 months old. I had been off of work because I had her, so I was on maternity leave. And so, yeah, trying to think
Yeah.
about, okay, where am I going to get money from? I ended up moving in with my parents, and it just so happens that my job still was available to me. So I went back to work, but I didn't think about that in the middle. All I
Right.
thought about was I want to be out of this relationship. It just so happens that things worked out. And then the third one, I was blindsided. I was completely blindsided. I got up to go take a shower, and my husband at the time was like, "Can we talk?" And within 20 minutes, he was like, "I'm leaving. I don't want to be a husband. I don't want to be a stepfather." I was like, "Wait, what? What is happening?"
What are we doing here? What's today?
And although I was the primary breadwinner, I did not make enough to maintain the lifestyle that I was currently living.
Yeah.
And so, in that regard, it was kind of like, oh crap, what do I do? And so, those are all really great. And luckily, I had a great village to help me. But those are all great things to think about. So
And
now,
that's a great point, because that's when I say there's a right way to do it. I'm probably close to your second. What happened to you in your second marriage? So great job. I was actually doing extremely well during that time, and he wasn't doing as well. And so, I had a great job, had built up a nice 401k, had a rental property, things were just going well. And so, I didn't feel like I was going to take that much of a financial hit, but I did.
Mhm.
And not only did I take a financial hit, I still lived as if I had two incomes. And so that was a no-no, like, right? So you take a hit and still live like you have two incomes, you're setting yourself up for a hard time. And so it did get rough for a little while.
Yeah, yeah. But it sounds like you bounced back.
I bounced back. I
Awesome.
did.
Awesome. So let's talk about now maybe the person who the divorce has happened, or maybe they were blindsided and they kind of wake up after those papers are signed and they're like, oh crap, like I didn't even think about my finances. What are
Mhm.
some of the things that they can start to do or put in place?
So you for sure need professional help. Like I say again, I talked about the village, but outside of the village, there is a team. And on that team is your therapist, right? So you got to have a therapist, a counselor, someone that you maybe talk to, because we were talking about faith-based um, planning here. So maybe someone at your church that you can always talk to. I know sometimes divorces are happy, they're mutual, but then there are those times when you get down on yourself, even though it's mutual, because you were used to having that partnership and now you don't. And so sometimes things come up and you may feel down, and you do need someone that you can talk to. So if you're past that paperwork and signed on the dotted line, you still need a team, and that team, first of all, includes that therapist. I also say obviously a financial planner, not just because I am a financial planner, but because I've experienced it. I've experienced both sides, and I've seen people experience both sides. And the one thing that happens is you end up making costly mistakes that you don't have to make. Right. So, coming off of a divorce, one of the things that we get stuck on is the house. And I'm transparent. I got stuck on the house. I wanted my son to stay in the house. This is where all his friends were, and the school was here. Well, when we divorced, the housing market was crazy. It was like upside down. Things weren't well. I should have sold the house.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe we'd have broken even. It, probably wasn't a great time to sell, but it should have been something that I consider. But a lot of times we just want to hang on to the house.
Yep.
And so sometimes you need someone, kind of before that process, if you get awarded assets, half of a 401k, or you get the house, somebody needs to help you straighten that out. You got to change your beneficiaries on your life insurance policy. You need an estate planning attorney. So you need a team.
Man, all those things that, we think about just the relationship ending.
Yeah.
We don't think about the fallout of that. I've had several clients who, it's, I want to hold on to the house, but you are struggling.
Yeah.
You're,
Yeah.
I know that that was your dream house, and I know that that was the home that your kids grew up in, and all those things. Back to what I said in the beginning, divorce is a death. It is a death, and it will cause other things to die in your life. And it's unfortunate. It is not fair. It is not fair to you, your ex-spouse, it's not fair to anybody. But at
Right.
the end of the day, divorce can leave a trail of destruction that you have to deal with.
Right.
Thinking about the house. So I initially was going to sell my house, and then it didn't sell, which looking back, thank God.
Right.
I was gonna sell it. Let me tell you, I was like, somebody, anybody buy this house, buy this house. And that literally the house 2 doors down from me, that's the same model. It sold in like days. And I was like, somebody better buy this house. Well, fast forward 2 years, housing market changed, and I actually used the equity in my house to get out of debt. Um,
Okay.
but I feel like that was grace of God. I did
Yeah.
not have the team in place. And I look back now on, had that house had have sold at the time, in my mind, I was like, this is the perfect thing. I need to get rid of this. I would have been in trouble. And
Yep.
so, like you were saying, having that team is so important. It is so important. The other thing is, after a divorce, our emotions are just on a roller coaster. And, I tell my clients, don't make, major decisions for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Now, once again, if you're in it, you need to get yourself in a good financial place, things like that. But when we're out here making these decisions on our own, oh my gosh, we
Yeah.
make some terrible decisions. So I love that you need to get yourself a team.
And one of the things that I guess is not an emotion, but pride and ego, those two little devils
Yeah.
at the time, they can be used for good, but they can be
Yeah.
used for bad. Like when your pride and your ego are, so big that you don't want to face reality, you don't want the shame, the embarrassment again, the pretty picture of what people saw on the outside. When you don't want that to, people to see that, you make mistakes, right? Because you're trying to like hide this fake image,
Yeah.
right? So it's not what people perceive anyway. It's already, they perceive it that way, and it's not that. So, first of all, it's not even what you think is not real. And then you try to keep that image up
Yeah.
of that relationship or of yourself. And then again, you make costly mistakes. Like
Yeah.
pride and ego can be like your biggest downfalls.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember this last time, like I said, I was blindsided. The other two, I prepare. I'm a planner. And so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I know this is coming. I need to find a place to live. I need to have income. Like I had all these things. But when it happens suddenly and you're caught off guard, like, wait, what just happened? I have friends who will tell you, girl, I made crafts and I sold them to make money. I worked part-time for a bookkeeper who was a friend. I know nothing about bookkeeping. But she was
Yeah.
like, I'll give you a part-time job. I did all these things, but it was because I had a village, and I had to destroy that pride and actually say, like, I need help, y'all. Like, I'm falling apart and my finances are falling apart, and I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage, and I don't know how, and so my friends would get creative and they would send me clients and they would do all these things. And so to your point, we have to kill our ego, we have to kill our pride, if we're going to recover well.
Right.
Because if not, oh man, it'll lead you down a hole. I was talking to a lady last summer, who she was 20 years out from her divorce, 20 years out, still bitter, still like picking up the pieces, still. And a big part of it is because she had just refused to ask for help. She just figured,
Right.
this is my life, I'm gonna deal with it. That's it. So spot on. All right.
Yeah.
So now, Reshell, share with us. So you've been through a divorce. You didn't make all the right financial decisions. Would you share with us some of the things that you did to kind of put your life back together financially after your divorce?
Oh gosh, yes. First of all, it took a little time. So it's not, you can't expect to take, 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, or even if it's 2 years, and put it back together in a month.
Yeah.
Right. So I know be patient doesn't sound good, but you have to be patient with yourself. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. Be patient with yourself. Try to make, as Oprah said, make your next move your best move. That way, again, you do not make costly mistakes. And if you have envisioned what you want that life to look like on the other side, then just start taking steps towards that. So remember, I did this at a time where I wasn't as focused on divorce planning as I am now. I just wanted to get it done.
Yep.
All right. So I just was like, let's just get this done.
Yep.
I knew I wasn't gonna go back, and I knew things weren't gonna be great again. And I thought, breadwinner, I can do it. I just want to get it going. And so what I had to do was just had a hard conversation with myself and say, listen, chick, the two incomes are gone. It's just one. You have your own business now. Income is and it ain't. It is and it ain't. It's not steady. So you really have to buckle down and focus on what's necessary to maintain a good lifestyle for you and your son, a comfortable lifestyle for you and your son. The fun will come. Like, you'll get back to where you want to be again, but you really have to buckle down. And for some people, that could be a couple of months, because maybe you have a job and you can get back. For others, it may be 6 months. Others, it may be a year. But I did take that hard look at what was ahead of me and say, hey, you got to make some changes. And my changes had to be financial. So that was one. Also, I just looked at me, just me. Like, is there something wrong with me, or is there something right with me? Like, what am I doing? And like, okay, let me talk to God here and see what's going on. So sometimes you have to take that internal look. And that's what I did. I had a good conversation with myself. And as I do always still, because I'm not, anywhere near where I want to be. But you got to have a hard look at the person in the mirror and make some decisions about yourself, and about your finances.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something that I think is spot on, is we have to give ourselves grace
Mm-hmm.
process. We've already got this, most of us, lowered self-esteem due to the fact that I failed in this marriage, feeling like maybe I failed as a wife, as a woman, as a mother, these feelings of failure. And so I feel like there is almost this expectation, and I see it quite a bit, that when, and I work mostly with women, that when women are so far out from the divorce, they'll say things like, well, how come I don't feel better? Or how
Right.
come I don't feel this right now? And on Saturday at the conference, we had someone ask, it was something along the lines of, I'm a few months out from my divorce. What is normal, right? There is no normal.
There is no.
There is no normal. There is no set finite timeline. Now, I do think that there are clear evidentiary levels of growth that you hit, whether it be 6 months out, a year out, or 2 out, if you're doing the work internally, externally. But there is no normal, right? It really is based upon your healing journey. But at the end of the day, give yourself some grace.
Yes.
With my clients, a lot of times they work with me for a year or two. And so we'll be a year out and they'll be like, April, I'm still going through this or feeling this. And I'll pull up some notes from a year ago. And I'll be like, yeah, but a year ago you were here and you were here. And they're like, I didn't remember that. I didn't think about that. And so sometimes back to having that team, it's good to have someone to remind you, like, look how far you've come.
Right. Absolutely.
Look how far you've come. And then getting creative, right? So you might have to get creative with your finances. I know this third time around, anything that was not essential,
Cut.
cut. And then if you have some experience with this, I'd like for you to share it too, but also sharing the transition with your children.
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't give our children enough credit when things like a divorce happen, even, at age appropriate, with age appropriate conversations. But children see things, they
Oh,
hear,
yes.
they know things, right?
Yes.
And so even involving them in the healing journey. So my daughter was 10 this last time around. And so, we had a talk. Look, it's just mommy now. And so these are the things that we're doing. We're saving money here. We're, doing things here. There may be some things, like you said, some extra fun things that we can't do for a little bit of time. And so did you have an experience with your son with having conversations with him, with, hey, life has changed?
So interesting enough, that was one of the uh factors in my divorce because he was young. He was, I don't know, 5. So he was little, young, through 2. We separated kind of when he was 3, 4.
Okay.
And so the conversation wasn't in depth,
Okay.
right? So my battle was, okay, do I do this now or do I wait until he's older? And so I was like, well, if I wait until he's older, he's not going to see a good image of a couple or whatever. And, I was thinking all those things. So I decided, no, we're going to figure out how to co-parent and we're going to go ahead and do this now. So that was my thought to myself. So that's, if people are having that thought, you just got to kind of figure that out. I decided to go ahead and say, let's figure out, how to co-parent while he's young. I don't think that I want to have this image and these issues that we're having all these years and he be a part of that and seeing that. So that's, was one of the factors. So I also have clients that I've worked with that their kids are older and they were in it for the children. And so there's 2 different situations I had. One was the young man was like, I was waiting for you, mom. Like, she's sitting there thinking she's doing it for him. And he was like ready. He's like, I'm just kind of waiting for you, you know? And so he was good with it. And then the second one was actually someone I was very close to, and it was a guy, and it was his 40th birthday. It was around his 40th, and I was calling to wish him a happy birthday. And somehow we got into conversation about divorce. And so his parents divorced when he was older. And he said, and I remembered this conversation. He said, my mom thought she was doing it for us, for the kids, but it didn't help us. He said she was always working. Dad was out, doing his thing. So they all knew he was out doing his thing, whatever he was doing. And she was never home because she was working all these jobs. And he said it didn't help us. And I thought, wow, how enlightening.
Yeah.
It didn't, and that was his 40th. He's like, so whatever people are gonna do, they should do. You don't want to do this, you don't want to do that. And I remember that conversation so well, and him just being a grown man saying that didn't help us.
Wow. Wow. My your story is very similar to mine. My daughter, so me and my daughter's dad had been married, I think 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we had started talking about divorce. We had talked about, like, was this a mistake? Is this not working? All those things. And literally the next month I got pregnant. And we were like, oh, okay.
Oh,
So we stayed together to see, okay, like, we didn't plan this child, but will this make a difference? Okay. And I remember he had said something to me in the middle of me being in labor. And I looked at the nurse, and the nurse looked at me. And in that moment, I
yeah,
knew you will never be the husband, the father that I believe she deserves, and that we need to be together. I
right.
knew in that moment that she would be better off having two parents that loved her, that
Yeah.
did not be in the that were not in the same household, then two parents that still loved her in the same household, but painted this terrible picture
Yeah.
of a relationship.
Yeah.
And so when she was 4 months old, I filed for divorce. When she was 6 months old, we were divorced.
Yeah.
And she just turned 15 in May. 15 years later, I have no regrets. She
None.
has two parents that love her. We are both involved in her life. He is remarried to someone I think is wonderful for him.
I love it.
And so looking back, I had to make that decision because everyone was telling me, well, you're breaking up your family and she's going to be damaged and all these things. And I thought, man, if we drag this out 5, 10 years, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you're a listener out there, we're not telling you to jump ship just because what we're saying.
We are not telling you that.
This
We're
is
saying
for,
this is what happened in our
yeah,
situation.
this is for informational purposes only. But if you are that person that, like Reshell said, people that I've coached who literally stuck around for the kids because you feel like your kids aren't resilient enough or they won't understand, have a conversation. And you don't, age appropriate. I always say age appropriate
Age appropriate.
conversations. Okay. You don't tell your kids all your business,
Yep.
but have a conversation with your kids. And a lot of times what you'll find is that they've seen more than what you think, and their feelings may be completely different than what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Um,
And a lot of times they are. When you have a child who's like, yeah, like mom, I already knew, there's a couple of they're young ladies now. They basically said to their mom, like, why are you still with our dad? It's kind of that thing that you feel like you don't want to break up your family.
yeah,
And women, for the most part, we're nurturers. We're going to try to, most of us at least, try to um, save the family. We do our best. I'm assuming most of us do our best. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, we just haven't been able to work it out. And so have 50% of other couples, almost 50% of other couples
right.
haven't been able to work it out. And that's no shame on the people who've gotten a divorce. I just think we didn't do the work that we should have done ahead of time. So now we're a lot smarter.
Yep.
We have better coaches, we have better therapists. I think that we know ourselves better now than maybe grandparents or great grandparents. And I think we can do a better job of making decisions about who we marry going forward.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
One of my speakers on Saturday, he made this statement, and they started out as marriage coaches, and then they made a shift a few years ago and started helping people to how they say detox from toxic relationships.
Okay.
He's a licensed, I think, counselor and some other things. And so he said it this way. He said, divorce is a solution to a bad situation. And there are some times when we just have to face the facts that this decision was a bad one and it was a
Right.
mistake.
Right.
So I always tell people, though I'm a divorce recovery coach, I am team marriage all the way.
All the way.
Team marriage. I do not
Yes.
advocate for divorce. I do not tell someone you need to get a divorce, things like that. But I do know that when you're in a situation like that, that divorce, it can be an answer to a prayer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it can be. And, if we're being honest, yeah, you can make a mistake. Yeah, you meet somebody and it's been all about lust for 2 weeks and you go to Vegas and get married. That might not be the best deal. It was, very lustful. It was very lustful. And you thought that a marriage could work, but it was just not a good um thing. And
yeah.
the second one, so being who I am now and who you are now, we have an idea of who we can partner with and who's aligned with the things that we're aligned with, and maybe we'll make better decisions going forward. But it's always a little tougher, as you probably know, going to that next marriage. So when you start to get to, your 40s and your 50s, and you've built a business and you built your accounts and all of that, you need to be a little bit smarter, because you don't want someone to come in and just take away everything that you have worked so hard for. So I say, going into a second, third, fourth, wherever marriage you are, prenuptials are
Girl,
your
come
friend.
on, say it again.
Like, there's nothing bad about a prenup.
No.
It's not just for Hollywood. It's not sexy. It's not romantic, but it's necessary.
Yes, girl, you are preaching to the choir. I had a conversation with a colleague of mine who's a little bit older. She's in her 50s. And we talked about that. And being in a faith-based community, I've
Oh,
heard people say, well, if you get a prenup, you're just preparing for divorce.
yep. Nope.
And here's the thing, people, somebody gonna get mad at me, but I don't care. It's my pocket.
I know. They get ready to get mad at me when I respond to you. I know.
Because here's the thing, the people that don't want a prenup is the people that ain't got nothing.
Right.
You don't have nothing to lose.
Right.
Because let me tell you, 4 years ago, when that man said, I'm leaving, the flashes of the home that I built and paid for, the business that I had been building and paid for, all those things flashed through my mind, because you woke up today and decided this was not the life you wanted.
You wanted to live.
So,
exactly.
Girl.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can be, I always, I tell pastors, hey, when people go through counseling, you can send them through little financial counseling too. Let's talk about some of that stuff, because that's one of the top contributing factors. Like, people can get over infidelity quicker than they can get over fights about money. So let's talk about that as well. And then the other thing is, I was on a gospel radio show, and I was just saying that some of the clients that I work with, sometimes it works best when he has his account, she has her account, and then you have ours. And ours might be for bills for the kids, but I'm sure he doesn't want to see me buy the 10th pair of shoes out of the joint account, or my nails, or whatever. Same thing. I might not want to see strip club. Let's save ourselves some arguments. And so, lady from the church called in, and she said, well, we teach, what's his is mine, what's mine is his, and vice versa. And I said, I'm not saying that that's not the case. And especially with young couples who may be coming in on equal ground, it's not as difficult to do that. But when you are someone who has built up assets, and maybe he's built up assets, it gets a little tougher to just say we're coming in on equal ground. So, and then I think her point was, because, what's he doing with his money in that account? I said, then that's not about money. That's about trust.
Come on.
See, so over there, we're talking about trust. We're not necessarily talking about money. We're talking about, I'm trusting that whatever you're doing in your account over there, it's not something that is detrimental to our marriage.
Girl, I'm so glad you brought that up. So I've had several of those conversations about having a joint account. And at the end of the day, it is, and I'm glad you said this, it is about trust. Now, I do not agree that you should have hidden money from your spouse.
No.
That's not what we're saying, y'all. If y'all hear this, we're not talking about what we're talking about, though, is I believe, and especially if you're someone, a lot of my audience is probably 35 to 55. If you're someone, I'm 46, who is getting married a little later in life or getting remarried, the joint account thing just might not work for you. Also, I believe on a biblical sense that even when we get married, we are still who God created us to be.
Yeah.
And I teach a shameless plug. I teach a healthy dating workshop. So back to your point of teaching people what a healthy relationship looks like. How do you get into one? How do you run when you're not in, when you're in an unhealthy relationship? But I truly believe that there is some level of independence that needs to be had in every healthy relationship. every healthy relationship. And so whether that is, I have an account that, like you said, if we have budgeted and we have money together, maybe in savings and our household account, and this is my splurge money,
Yes.
who cares if I go buy five persons, right?
Who cares?
Who cares? And
Right.
so to your point, then if that is an issue with you, then you have to go deeper than, is this just finances or is it a lack of trust?
Yeah.
Now, let me say this too, when it comes down to things like the person managing the finances. So I was in one of my marriages where my husband was like, I'm the man, I manage the finances. Well, after that divorce, I was $65,000 in debt
Yep.
because he did not know how to manage
Yep.
finances. And so, once again, a lot of times in churches and things like that, we're taught, well, the man is the head and he has to manage. Look, y'all, one thing that I've seen, my parents have been married, I'm 46, they've been married for 45 years. One of the things that I have seen work in their marriage is that they do what works in their marriage. They pay bills separately. It's
Yep.
like, one person, I mean, and it's kind of based upon like their percentage of income. So they're still given the same percentage, but like one person does like the groceries and the utilities, one person does like the mortgage and the insurance, whatever that may look like. At the end of the day, do what works for your relationship and not based upon what someone has told you is supposed to be.
Absolutely. Because it becomes a power struggle.
Yeah.
And that it really is what it is. I'm the man, I do this, whatever. Then it becomes a power struggle because if I'm with a guy that, I'm a financial planner. What if you're like, a realtor or something? Finances may not, what if that's not your thing?
Mhm.
Then this is what I do. Like, let
Yeah.
me do us, because
Yeah.
this is what I do.
It's going to
So
benefit
why,
everybody.
yeah, why would we fight about that? Why would that be a power struggle? But to your point, my parents the same. Before my father passed away, he paid and he sat down and he wrote his bills out. My mom knew she had to pay for the cable and the groceries or whatever. I didn't see her sitting down writing bills out. I don't know how my girl did her thing, but she did it, right? It worked for them and things were paid. They didn't have issues. So people coming in, I always say everyone's situation is unique, right? So what works for April and her husband may not work for Reshell and her husband. It's different income levels, maybe different children, different properties. There's a lot. I know Gabrielle Union, I think, said
Yeah.
something recently,
Yeah.
and people had a problem with it. I was like, okay, she said 50-50. Okay, now there's got to be a reason why she said 50-50. Like, y'all are just like, well, he's way richer than you. Why are you doing 50-50? And then they came back and explained, she's like, but I got 18 people over here that I take care of,
Right.
and he's over here with 27 people that he takes care of. So that works for them.
Right.
Regardless of who makes the most, that works for them. Now, I know we're like, wait a minute, now he makes 5 times more than you. Why are you paying half and half? Obviously, there's a reason behind that. And if it works for them, it works.
Ooh, girl, I have just enjoyed talking to you today. Oh my gosh. I'm like, we can talk for another hour.
I know.
But I have just enjoyed talking to you. Thank you again, just for taking the time to share with me today, even sharing about your personal story. I love what you're doing for this community of people. It's just something that I know for me, without having that, I have the financial support now, but in those years past, man, I would have benefited by having
Right.
someone like you. So, Reshell, if someone was saying, you know what, I need to get in contact with her, like I need to talk to her, I need to, get some help, how can someone connect with you?
The best way is just to head to my website. It's Ames Financial Solutions. That's AMES Financial Solutions. If you go there, there'll be a pop-up. You can just join my email list. But under the contact, you can just schedule a consultation with me. My initial consultation is very short, but it gives me and you to see if we're on the same vibe, we're on the same page, if I can serve you or not. So please hop on, join my email list, schedule a consultation with me. A list of my services is listed there. So divorce financial planning is on there. But in addition to that, I'm on all social media platforms at Reshell Smith.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'll make sure also, Reshell, to put that information in the show notes so that people can definitely connect with you easily if they're looking for your help. So once again, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
It was great talking to you. So, all right, y'all. So I feel like I needed this information. Hopefully, you guys need this information. Make sure you connect with Reshell if you feel like, April, I want to make sure I get some help before I get out there. You know, if you're thinking of, if you're in that space of thinking about divorce, maybe you're in the middle of one, or you just signed your papers and you're like, I'm lost. Connect with Reshell, see if she's someone that can partner with you. You need a team, you need a village. She seems like an amazing person. So until next time, guys, go out there and create the life you love.